All right, hey everyone. Gary Wilson Hill, welcome to this week's live Path to Prosperity webinar. All right, great subject tonight. As I mentioned last week, tonight we're going to talk about how to work with banks. Okay, so just like I've been doing the last several webinars where we're going over a specific marketing campaign, in advance I created basically a checklist for you. Some of the campaigns already had checklists. What I'm doing intentionally this year, you probably already figured this out, is for every campaign we're going to do to teach you, we're going to also create a checklist for that, give you the actual recording and the transcription of the recording. So in any case, before we get into all the details, so we're live and we're recording, so welcome aboard everybody. Let me check the attendee list. Let's see, attendees. Oh, good, we definitely got some new folks. Tony, how you doing, buddy? Good to see you. Cheryl, Jim. Hey, Jim, on Monday, hang on one second here. Look at the link again, Jim, to set up another call. And Monday was an anomaly. I flew in on Saturday out there. I didn't realize Monday was Family Day in Canada. So if you're on, you're going to laugh at this. All the years I've been spending time in Canada, of course, I'm up there quite a bit. Apparently, I've never been there on Family Day, which is a national holiday, and everything's closed. Schools, everything's closed. And we had a big family gathering. I didn't know that till I get on Saturday. Sunday, I'm looking at my schedule thinking, oh, I got to make some changes here. So Jim, I apologize publicly. I appreciate your being flexible, but it's better to always use that link to schedule a time slot. 990 times out of 1,000, it works perfectly. This was just one of those occasions where it didn't, and it's my fault. But by the way, welcome aboard all of you. Chris, Rachel, some veterans here. Well, this goes back a couple of years now. This is awesome. Luann, of course, Louie, Linda. All right, let me do this. I need to go to the chat box and make this open to everyone. So all panelists and attendees, so now you can all see each other's chats, as well as mine. And Jim, if you're ever stuck and it doesn't, like you're like a highest and best offer scenario, just text me. If I'm in class, I'll call you right to class. We don't ever want you to lose a deal because you couldn't get an answer when you needed it. Sometimes it may take an hour or two, but I promise you, to me, texting is more urgent. I'm only using in urgent situations too, by the way. Otherwise, we can just use normal strategy calls. So let's see here. Rachel, hey, nice to see you, Rachel. Thanks for saying that. Louis is saying, hey, everyone. Linda, hi, everyone. Okay, good. So let's do this. For all the new folks, just a brief bit of housekeeping, then we'll jump into the subject. Obviously, this is live and being recorded at the same time. So if you're watching this in a recorded mode, obviously, you can fast forward, but we always want you to get the recording the next day, because then you can replay it, rewind it, fast forward, take additional notes, what have you. Here's what I do. If I was you, I would take these and go through the MP3 or MP4 converter, create an audio, and I would create audios of these. And we used to put them on CDs. Now you can just put them on a MP in your own flash drive or whatever, store it on your phone, whatever you want to do, and listen to it while you're driving. Okay, because I know we're all busy, but that repetition is the mother of learning, right? Now, also in that follow-up email the next day, Beverly gives you what's happening to the systems, platforms, updates, scheduling changes. So you just definitely want to stay abreast there. For example, some of you probably noticed just this week, they started what's called front-end rebranding. I couldn't tell about this because I know about it. I just don't know all the internals of SEO. But apparently, the front end is going to say real estate with Gary Wilson, because they're finding out people are searching more for my name, which is kind of interesting because I'm just a regular person. But also the phrase real estate, of course, is a very highly searched phrase. So when you attach real estate, and the word with, by the way, is also very highly searched. Real estate with Gary Wilson, as you might imagine, the powers that be realize they're going to get much higher traffic by using that phrase in the links, the websites, the whole nine yards. So you'll see some of that stuff that's kind of happening behind the scenes. It doesn't really affect us too much, and you and I, we're still doing what we're doing. I just want to make you aware of some of this stuff that goes on. Okay, a couple more things. we're very close to providing you with the marketing material that you're using. I'm going to give you marketing material that you're going to use to attract and serve your clients. And within that context is going to be content that you provide to your clients so that they understand and learn how to flip homes, how to buy rentals, how to manage rentals, how to wholesale. All that is going to be in there. You don't have to go searching for this stuff and forget about it. All that's, we're going to be putting it in the campaigns for you with the links and everything. I mean, this is going to make it so much easier for you to have your clients be more informed, more educated, and now they're working on the same songs you do, which is important. It's exactly what I did all those years, and it works. All right, so keep an eye out for that. Now, tonight's subject is banks, working with banks. So let me go, we'll always, of course, start with the checklist. So let me get this up and do a share. So hang on just 1 second here. Share, checklist, and share. Okay, so you should all now have in front of you on your computer screen Word doc that starts off with working with banks checklist. So maybe one or two of you just shoot me a quick little chat there and let me know that you can actually see it. And hopefully the answer is yes. And the answer is yes. Thank you, Louis, for doing that. Okay. I got lots of yeses. Good. You guys are definitely attentive tonight. Now, I'm going to emphasize this because this is really important. Anytime you have the intention of doing something, you're going to act and work on something intentionally, you definitely want to have goals. I know you hear this a lot, and I keep hounding on this, but it's so critical. When you have a goal, a golden nugget that you're working towards, everything you're doing leading up to that goal is going to make a lot more sense. Even when it goes sideways, you'll easily be able to get back on track when you have one eye on that golden nugget. Okay, we call this one eye on today, and one eye on tomorrow. Okay, well, people will say sometimes, hey, you got to be in the present. Well, that's true. And some people will say, hey, you got to look to the future. Well, that's true too. It's not an or equation, it's an and equation. The point is this, is you got to have your goal. It may be out in the future, but between here and there are steps you're going to take. It all starts with the first step, which is right here, right now, which is setting that goal, okay? Now, beginning of the year, I went over some stuff with you about how to create a vision statement for yourself. And then you determine who you identify yourself actually in your vision exercise. You determine what goals does that person have, number 2. Then you determine what actions need to be taken to achieve those goals, number 3. And number 4 is then you do the actual plan, okay? But make no doubt about it. I'm not going to go into all the visionary stuff here tonight because we've been here all night. Just know this, at a minimum, start with a goal. Now, my personal opinion is this. I'm just going to kind of contradict myself here. I don't ever set goals until I've done my vision statement first. Every single year I do that. And then throughout the year, I'm setting goals, changing goals, achieving goals, what have you. That's how you gain that alignment, right? Between you and your higher self, or between you and God, okay? In any case, back to this, back to ground zero, back to earth. Every marketing campaign needs to have a goal. A marketing campaign, think of it as a small little micro business that you're kicking off that may take you days, weeks, or months. You darn sure better would have a plan that ends up having you achieve your goal. So whatever next, 50 transactions, 10 transactions, I suggest you go ahead and write that down, and write it from your heart, by the way, not from your head, write it from the heart, right? And then when you do that, your head will then follow suit, right? So determine your goals, right? I think I beat that horse to death. Now determine which kind of properties you want. See, banks are going to have properties that they have already taken back through a foreclosure process, okay? Some states and some provinces may be different than others. But for the most part, there's a process to follow mortgage. The bank can take the property in possession. They can take ownership of it, right? And in the banking world, they call that REO, real estate owned. It's a banking term. It's actually an accounting term. So if you go to any bank and ask them to see their financial statement for the year, for last year, matter of fact, that might be a good thing to do just for the practice. In there, you're going to see a category that says REO, real estate owned, okay? You're also going to see like other buckets, reserve, cash reserves, capital reserves, loan loss reserves, all these things you're going to see. I think it would be a good idea for you to get some of these from a couple of banks and get a really good idea of what that looks like internally. Then you can speak the language, okay? But back to the original statement number 2 is pre-foreclosure, or some people call them short sales. That's what we call them, in the old days in the States, short sales. Pre-foreclosure is a property where the loan hasn't been paid on for 30, 60, 90 days, but the owner still owns it. The bank has not taken it over yet, okay? The other category is foreclosure, where obviously the property has already been turned back over to the bank through a foreclosure process, okay? What I want you to think about is which one would you rather work with? You can do both, okay? But let me give you some things to think about. If you're dealing with a pre-foreclosure, the current owner still has possession of the property. They still own the property, okay? So you can't just get the property from the bank. You have to get the property from the owner. Well, here's what you want to do. And this is strictly speaking of pre-foreclosure just for the moment. You're going to get that property listed through a normal MLS listing, the documentation, the whole 9 yards, okay? And then and you're going to have an addendum in there where the owner is giving you the right to represent them in short sale discussions and negotiations and proceedings, okay? In other words, you now have the property listed, you represent the owner, and you've also been given specific rights to represent them in dealing with the bank. This was important because if you don't have that, a bank may take you seriously, but they might not. So if you don't have that, what we used to do is we used to hire an attorney and give an attorney $1,000 per deal to do all the intermediary work, all the negotiating, everything with the bank, and leave us out of it. And then we, of course, will get the listing and get the commission there, right? And sometimes even the buyer. So in any case, the problems with pre-foreclosure are, if, again, you got to deal with the owner first, and you still got to deal with the bank, okay? And sometimes the owners are not really too agreeable to working with anybody. They're under stress. I mean, my gosh, maybe there was a death in a family, somebody lost a job, somebody got divorced, all kinds of things happen. And you need to be prepared that some of these consumers are going to want to just bury their head in the sand, okay? So that's going to happen. So in any case, pre-foreclosure, the other thing is the bank has what's called first right of refusal on any offer that's made on the property. So let's say you get it listed, you're getting offers on the property, you got to present those to the bank because the bank's going to be able to say, yes, we'll allow that transaction to go through because it's enough to cover the loss of the loan, right? If it's not enough, they're not going to allow that loan, they're not going to allow that transaction to go through. They're going to say, nope, not enough, not going to work out. And this was part of the big problem back in the late 2000s when foreclosures were a big problem in the States, right? Now, let's just switch gears and talk about the foreclosures, the REOs, the ones that are already been taken back in foreclosure by the bank. I think they're easier. In fact, I think they're a lot easier, okay? For a couple of reasons. Number one is, I know I'm only dealing with the bank. I'm not dealing with the bank and the owner, potentially an attorney. I'm just dealing with one entity, which is the bank, okay? And I can negotiate with them till the cows come home. And I also know that I'm going to get a title policy that's going to verify that they've cleaned up all the liens and all the restrictions and all that, okay? So I get a clean bill of health on the property, title-wise, okay? And I can normally get a pretty good deal because I'll go in with some cash. I'll offer them cash on the property, generally get a better deal. So I like REOs. That's my personal opinion. Now, what you can do is you can use this tool here called banktracker.org. So let me just click on this. Oops, sorry. So what the heck is this thing doing here? Let's chart over here. Here we go. So I'm going to highlight this. I'm going to copy it. And I'm going to show you the tool used to determine which banks have foreclosures, okay? Or, excuse me, non-performing assets. Now, let me see if, who was it that sent me the email that wanted to talk about this? Let me just see if I can remember who that was. Cheryl, James, Louie, Linda, Marina. Hey, Marina, real quick pause here, guys. Hey, Marina, it looks like you attempted to set up a strategy call with me, I think earlier today or yesterday and last week, and in both cases, you ended up canceling it right away. Is that on purpose or is that a mistake? Because I just want you to know you're setting up a strategy call with me, but it's being canceled right away. And then I don't have a call with you. So I just want to make sure you're aware of that. If you want to email me directly, just email me, Gary Wilson at kw.com. and just let me know if you're having some struggles with that. But I want you to have a call with me. It's just I want you to know when you set them up, you're canceling them right away. So that's just a little bit of an aside there, guys. Sorry for the interruption. So back to this. Let's go bring up Bank Tracker, and we're going to actually use this tool right here on the spot. So hang on just one second. Click it in here, hit the enter key. All right, I'm going to do a screen share on this guy, so hang on your seats. I just got to wait for the website to pop up, so hang on one second. Here we go. All right, so let's do new share. We're going to share Bank Tracker, okay? So now you should see on your screen, it says IRW Investigative Reporting Workshop, okay? The link is right up just on your screen right there, banktracker.investigativereportingworkshop.org, okay? So let's just dive in here, right? Whoops, excuse me. Key indicators, okay? All right, first, real quick, I'm going to back up a second. If you look off to the left here, guys, you can choose to look at credit unions, and you can choose to look at banks and credit unions. Failed banks are banks that have already failed, right? I don't really pay attention to that because it's already water's over the dam. So we're going to focus on banks and credit unions. And these key indicators are this. Here's some big statistics. These are U.S. banks, by the way. I haven't found a similar tool for Canadian banks, but in Canada, guys, just so you know, in Canada, we don't sell mortgages. Every bank is a portfolio lender, okay? And so as a result, we do much more thorough due diligence. We have better results with our lending. We didn't have the big recession that we had here in the States, okay? So it totally eliminates that secondary market altogether. So it prevents all that, potential corruption from greed and power and money and all that. But in any case, check this out. 5,785 banks. That is a lot of banks. That's like over 100 banks per state. This is all banks, big banks, little banks, everything. Okay, 11.5 trillion of deposits. That's money sitting in checking accounts and saving accounts. Outstanding loans 8.4 trillion. Okay, so the good news is the banks have more deposits than they have loans. That's always a good sign. Okay, total assets 15 trillion. Okay, so the assets again is loans. Plus other assets like the bank may have other investments like stocks and bonds and things like that. Total troubled assets, 65 billion, all right, in loans are in trouble. So check this out. This includes loans that are 90 days or more past due, those that are no longer accruing interest on the bank's books, and property the bank has repossessed for non-payment. The workshop adjusts this amount to deduct loans that have full or partial government guarantees, okay? So in other words, the problem is even bigger than this. This is not a big problem, by the way. 65 billion, that sounds like a lot of darn money, and it is, but compared to 15 trillion in assets, I mean, my gosh, guys, that's not even, let's see, so 65 billion, that is 6.5% of 1 trillion, times 15, you do the math here, we're in a very solid, sound shape right now. The U.S. economy is the best it's ever been ever. And this is according to Forbes, Barron's, all the economists, okay? More sectors are benefiting in their time in the history of this has been measured. What I'm getting at here is this. 65 billion troubled assets is not much. It's a small fraction of the total assets, okay? Banks with TAR, troubled asset ratio greater than 100, there's 10 of them. So 10 banks are in deep trouble, right? So now let's go back up here. Let's select banks. Oh, let's see how many credit unions, by the way. We're going to click on credit unions real quick and see what we're doing here. So there are, whoops, hang on one second. Okay, well, so this is, unfortunately, I've got hot fingers and butterfingers now. The website's trying to catch up. Let me see if I can, Akron, Ohio, how about that, Akron Bank? Here's a good one for you. I say Akron, Colorado, excuse me. Okay, now it's moving. Look at all those credit unions, okay? It's a lot of credit unions. Here we go. So it's not giving us all those all those ratios, but that's okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go back up to the top. I just saw a bank from Pennsylvania there. These are just credit unions. I'm going to go to the banks because we're going to get better results by looking at the banks. So just hang on to your seats just 1 second. And I promise you, I won't make you keep looking at all that. So here's how this new tool works. This is different than the tool you see me teach in class, okay? So what you do is you start typing in, right here where it says find a bank, just start typing in, let's just type in ALL, Allegheny. Now don't hit the enter key, don't do anything other than scroll down. This is one of the little quirky things with this new website they came up with is, when I first found out, I thought, okay, I got to type in the bank name and hit the enter key. What that does is causes it to reset. Craziest thing you've ever seen. I used to be a software developer. That's not good development. All right. Okay, so I typed in Allegheny. Let's see what banks come up there. Allegheny Valley Bank is one of those banks. Okay. So let's click on it. All right. And we're going to get some vital statistics on this bank. So here we go. Here's the latest health report. Allegheny Valley Bank. I used to know these guys. I used to do a lot of loans with them. I mean, I'm telling you, if I probably had, I don't know if I should say this public, we're not public, this is a closed network. Millions in outstanding loans with this bank, okay? I made them a lot of money. And I sent all my clients there too, by the way. So check this out. Total assets, 446 million, all right? This bank has grown a lot, right? Total deposits, 334 million. Total loans 314. So they're a little bit thin there. In other words, their loans outstanding are almost as much as their deposits. Okay. Loan loss provision is only $100,000. That's not a lot. Okay. They made $290,000 in profit. Capital, they got 39 million, almost 40 million in capital. Reserves. Now this is better. So total reserves is 3.8 million. And their past due is only 303,000. So they're doing okay right now. In other words, they're at about 10%. In other words, the past due, the mortgages that are 90 days past due are about 10% of their reserves, okay? So they're not in any real trouble right now. Let's see, non-accrual, we don't really be concerned with that. Real estate owned, so they actually own 42,000 right now. So that's probably just one property. Capital plus reserves. So this is capital up here plus reserves, right? Is 43. That's how you come with that. You add the capital to the reserves, you come up with capital reserves. Total troubled assets. So they got $5.4 million in loans that are 90 days past due, guys. Okay. I'm gonna reverse my earlier statement when I said these guys are in pretty good shape. If any of you are in the Western Pennsylvania area, I do talk to this bank the next day. Look at the troubled asset ratio, 12.38%. In other words, 12.38% of their troubled assets, of their assets are in trouble, of their loan assets, okay? Now here's the real kicker, check this out. Troubled assets, total troubled assets of 5.4 million is greater than their reserves. Here's the issue. If all these loans actually do go into foreclosure, they're going to wipe out their reserve, okay? And they'll be in negative. They have to do what's called a cash call. Anybody who owns part of that bank has got to kick in cash to make it solvent. In any case, a couple things to write down here. I can tell you from experience, you're going to have better success working with banks that have a troubled asset ratio approaching or exceeding. I go visit that bank the next day, okay? So again, anything close to or exceeding 10% is a candidate bank to go visit to see if you can get a listing from them or buy your own properties for that matter. Okay, so this is how you interpret the data. They used to give us the chart, a graph. Remember the line chart, line graph? Now they give us these boxes with all the actual numbers. All right, so I'm getting a lot of questions coming in. Let me just do a quick pause and I'll take your questions. So hang on 1 second. Let's see here. Okay, let's see. Got it. Hey. Rachel D. There's Rachel. Hey, doing Rachel? Hot dog. Lisa Louie. Bank of Canada. There we go. Oh, thanks, Louie. Bankofcanada.ca/rates banking and financial statistics. There we go, guys. So I'll be back up there, Louie, on the 27th. Yes, 27th. All right, so let's see. Can you do a bank in Miami, Florida? I was hoping you'd ask that. So let's go ahead and do that, guys. Before we do that, Rachel, hang on one second. This is from Jim. Jim, what is the difference between total troubled assets and past due 90-day? So let me go back here real quick. Second, troubled assets, past due 90 days. That's a good question. They give some verbiage down here. This is all kind of new to me. We had the old format before this where they gave us the actual, like I don't know, Chris, if you remember that. Chris was on, and I think, Chris, they changed this sometime in the last year. I know you went through training last winter. I know it was the time I was in California. We were looking at the Teachers Bank in California. I forget what it's called. Maybe it was called Teachers Bank of California. They were in trouble. And right about that time, they switched the format. So, Jim, back to your question here. Past due, I think, is just pretty much just exactly what it says. These are loans that are past 90 days. That means they're getting ready to go into REO status. Total troubled assets, that might be all the loans that are behind, Jim. Well, what I'll do is I'll post a question. There's a, let's see, search, blog, investigations, matter right, bank tracker, home. On the prior screen, Jim, let me go back home, okay? And they give us the key metrics. See, they don't give us those there. Total troubled assets. Here we go. Here's the description, Jim. Sorry, I didn't read it earlier. Accruing interest on the bank's books, okay, so that's important. And property the bank has repossessed for non-payment. So these are the ones the bank's already taken back in possession. The workshop adjusts amount to deduct loans that have full or partial government guarantees. So if there's a loan that's been like a HUD insured loan or any insured loan, they'll remove that loan from this figure because they know that the government's going to kick in and cover that loss, okay? So back to this. So now we have our answer to our story, Jim. These are properties, total troubled assets. These are ones the bank has already taken back in foreclosure. And the 90 past due is just, I'm assuming obviously the bank hasn't foreclosed on it. In other words, total troubled assets included in the and also had to the bank take it back in possession. I finished that description here with the live example. So according to what I just read, Jim, on computer, here we go. These are loans that are just past due, but the bank has probably not taken it, the bank has not taken it back yet, and they may be still accruing, okay? Down here, these are ones that are the bank has taken back in foreclosure, and they're also not accruing, and they're, of course, obviously past 90 days too. Guys, again, I would go visit this bank the next day. That's what I would do. In any case, let's type in a Florida bank. Whoops, well, that was strange. I hate that when it happens. Let's go type in, let's just type in Miami. Oops. Actually, I think that's credit unions. Hang on one second, guys. Let's type in banks, find a bank. Let's type in, because I think you can type in, yeah, it says you can type in name, bank name, or city. Okay, so let's type in Miami. This thing is excruciatingly slow. Miami. Let's see what pops up, Rachel, for Miami. There's Apollo Bank. So I think that's probably, from what I remember, that's a local small bank. That would be good. Biscayne Bank. Let's just see. Coconut Grove Bank. That would definitely be a local bank. Helm Bank, I'm going to guess that's a local one. We got a bunch of them, guys. Look at that. There's a bank called Total Bank. How about that? And look at this. The Bank of Miami in Coral Gables has already been taken over by the government. They failed already. So if it says failed is true, I just saw another one. Hamilton Bank has failed. Metro Bank of Dade County has failed. Premier Bank has failed. And the Bank of Miami has failed. But let's go to Rachel. Let's pull up this first one, Apollo Bank. Let's see what we get. Okay. All right. So Apollo Bank, here's their health report. Let's go to the bottom here. So troubled asset ratio is 5.53%. They don't own anything right now. The real estate, whatever they had taken back in foreclosure, they've already sold. So if you remember, the Allegheny Valley Bank had one that said $42,000. That means they probably got one that they still have that in possession they need to sell. They probably sold the other ones already. This bank has over $4 million in troubled assets. So it looks like they foreclosed on everything they got. They got nothing 90 days past due. Reserves is $5 million. So in other words, their total troubled assets is less than their reserves. So they're, they've got some troubled assets. I would definitely approach them, but I would approach the banks first that have a 10% ratio or better. Let's see if we can find one of those. Let's go back to banks, and we'll start over. We'll look at some of the other ones. So Miami was what we're keying in on. Let's see here. There it goes. All right. It's thinking about it. Let's see what pops up. Now, while that's thinking about it, actually, let me just, this doesn't seem right. That's a lot more than before. Yeah, Miami, Florida. How about that? We didn't have to do that before that. We just typed in Miami. Miami, Florida, and we're not going to hit enter straight. Remember, don't hit the enter key. It'll reset on you. Okay. It doesn't like that. Let's just go back, start over again. There we go. Now we're back to where we were. Okay, so let's do Coconut Grove Bank. Rachel, if you want to look at it specifically, let me go to the chat box. You see if there's one you want to look at specifically. Actually, let me just clear off these questions that are on here. Let's see, this is Louis. Thanks again, Louis. Rachel, Jim's question. Okay, Louis, why would they be in trouble if they can sell the troubled asset for the mortgage owed? So Louis, I used to be in banking. So when they have a property in possession, there's an associated loan with that. Now, what happens in accounting terms is, like to you and I, the consumer, the property is the asset and the loan is a liability to consumers. The loan is a liability. Switch gears, put on your banker hat. The loan itself is an asset to the bank. Now, the property is a non-material. It's not a factor in the books at this point. But if the loan gets into trouble, then the owner's not paying on the loan, okay, and the bank has to take the property back in possession. Now the bank does have to account for that property, the physical building itself, okay? They also got to account for the loan. So the reason why banks don't like foreclosures is for a number of reasons, obviously, but it's a big deal on their books, on the accounting system. It's not, let's say they had $1 million loan and nobody's paying on it. It's not just that loan value goes from 1 million to zero. There's actually a negative effect too, below zero, because now they got this property. They got to pay insurance on. They got to pay taxes on. They got to maintain it if they want to actually advertise it and show it. They got electricity on. Got to keep the grass cut. All that kind of stuff. Okay, so it's taking money out of the bank's coffers. It's a liability. Remember this: an asset is only an income-producing asset if it feeds you. If you're feeding the asset, it's not an income-producing asset. It's a liability. Okay. I know the bank will call the property an asset to you. I get it. The property is an asset to you, but it's not an income producing asset because if you're living there, this thing's taking money out of your pocket every single month. So in any case, so back to your question, Louis, when they have that troubled asset, total troubled assets, okay, and they sell a property, what they'll do is they'll take the property, the value of the loan from the total troubled assets, put it in the real estate owned category, okay, and then they sell it. They sell the loan. I'm sorry, they sell the property. That brings that down to zero. Now, by the way, they might not get the full loan balance paid off. They might only get part of it paid off. They have to write off as a loss the remaining balance on that loan. So what it does is the bucket over here, the troubled asset ratio or troubled assets, total troubled assets bucket gets filled up with the loans they've already taken back in foreclosure, okay, and the properties that are related to that. Now, as they take a property and put it into a listing service, okay, and they sell that property and then reduce the total troubled assets by the value of what they sold the property for. If they sold that thing for $42,000, they reduced total troubled assets by $42,000. That value of $42,000, where it says REO or property owned, listed owned, that goes to zero. Okay, even if they didn't get the full loan balance, they still bring it to zero and they write off the loss. Okay, and it gets back to this. Why does it say last updated March 31st, 2017? So some of these, I think they're just behind probably. Shika, some of them they're just behind. Some of them they're current as of today. Some of them are. I've never seen that far behind. That's actually about 3 years ago. So that would be pretty far behind. Okay, this is from Louis. A foreclosure will initially be listed at fair market value, so the sale will at least cover the loan and more. Would a lender ever sell the asset for less than the loan? Yes, but not all the time. So Louis, and times are good right now, both in US and Canada, times are good. So the bank's not going to be as anxious to just dump a property. They'll definitely want to cover the loan loss. Okay, they want to cover the loan loss so that it ends up netting out on the books, and they didn't really take a loss. You know, they're still going to take a hit on it. By the way, there's all these legal costs and stuff like that. But in an economy where everything's in a tank, like in the U.S. 10 years ago, bottom of a recession, you better believe when we were buying properties for pennies on the dollar, it was crazy. It was like Christmas time. So they absolutely will. But usually when it's a more depressed economy, okay? Excellent question, by the way. Let's see, this is Rachel. Okay, I see. When we go to these banks, who exactly are we asking to speak to? Asset manager, and the marketing tool we would use in this strategy would be the letter and or booklet, correct? So what I'm going to do, Rachel, is I'm going to give you this. So we don't actually use letters and booklets for these banks. We use a script, and I'm going to give you the script here in a few minutes. I want to get through these Q&As first, the chats first, and then we'll do the script. So this is a tool, Rachel, or a method where you're actually going to go visit the bank in person, directly in person. You can't do it over the phone, can't do it via email, just got to go in person. But I'll get to that in a minute. Okay, this is from Luann. Hey, Luann, is there a ratio the banks are looking for in market value to loan value to sale price? It's like Louis said, Luann, they want to basically cover the loss. So they got to sell the property usually for more than the loan, the value of the loan when it went into foreclosure, because they got all these carrying costs, they got legal costs, they got a reporting cost. They have to report this to the Fed, and they got to put it in their financial statements. It's a big ordeal. When the bank has a foreclosure, guys, it's not just that the loan is the thing that they lost here. There's all these other associated costs. That's why they generally are not agreeable to a lot of purchases on pre-foreclosure, because they've already costs involved. So I would say, Ruben, back to your question, in a hot market like now, a fast-moving, healthy market, they're going to want to price it so they cover all their cost and the lost loan. In a depressed market, again, they're going to price it for quick sale. They need to get these things off their books because it's costing the investors money. The investors in the bank itself have to do what's called cash calls. The regulators are knocking on their door. They're breathing down their neck. It's just a horrible thing. So let's see here. Rachel was asking for a script. Yeah, I'm going to go over the script here in a minute, Rachel. So back to this. Let's look at what was that bank we're getting ready to pull up here? Coconut Grove Bank. They're not that bad a shape. So let's just go back and again, if you have you want me to look at, just let me know, okay? And I'll plug it in for you. Let me go back up here. Let's see if I see one here on the list. It's a journal. Here's a Florida one. Arlalon Bank in Ocala. Guess what? Guess where I'll be teaching class at the end of the month? On the way north, going up 75. So let's look at this one. Ooh, there's one for you guys. Ocala, if for all the KW folks, we have a market center there. I've taught there before. I'll be teaching again at the end of the month. Their troubled asset ratio is 12.47%. I think I'd go visit them, okay? Now, Ocala is a long ways for most of you. It's north of Orlando, just south of Gainesville, okay? But check it out here. So they got 3.2 million in troubled assets, 4 million in reserves, okay? Capital plus reserves is 26 million. This is a tiny, tiny bank. 213 million in loans, which is less than deposits, so that's good. They're making some money. They're doing okay. Capital 22 million. They only got 50,000 in loan loss provision. That's, you guys, I don't like to see that. I mean, this bank is capitalized at 22 million, and they've only got 50,000 in loan loss reserves, and they've already got 3 million in troubled assets, right? And look at this. Look at this other real estate owned. Guys, I'm gonna go visit this bank. They now have $2.7 million in properties that they own, that they don't want to own. Banks are not real estate people. Banks are banks. They're going to be selling these properties, okay? And there's a lot of money for a bank this size. That's a lot. Wow. Okay. Well, I'll tell you what. Anybody want to carpool? If you're in the Melbourne bank, I'd go there. If you're in St. Augustine, I'd go there. I've taught in those market centers. So if you're in those market centers, drive over to Ocala. I've done it before from St. Augustine. Hour and a half, that's all it takes. Guys, this is when I would go visit, is the point I'm trying to make here. All right, let's do this. Let me go back to the checklist, okay? I have to do a reshare, I think, or hang on one second. I'm gonna do share. And there's a checklist, and here we go. All right. So you also want to, by the way, watch the video. Just rewatch this video. There's already one out there. If you go to the Silver Level membership site, okay, on My Investment Services, go into the resource section, go on recorded webinars, and scroll down. You'll see a couple of webinars just on using Bank Tracker. But this recording will be out there in a couple of weeks. I would just use this recording because it's going to be more current. But what you want to do is watch that video to see how you actually do this technique over and over again. There's also a transcription on it, okay? I'm just talking here about how you actually use the user tool. Don't hit the enter key, right? You're looking for troubled asset 10% or more. You can go to your property records online, your county's tax assessor database, and look for the bank name that has a troubled asset ratio with 10% or more, and you can see specifically which properties they've taken back by using that technique, okay? Pretty important. Let's see here. Make a list of all the banks you want to visit, okay? And by the way, this isn't going to be too complicated right now because there's not going to be a lot of them. There'll be a handful of banks. But you want to go visit the branches one at a time and plot it out in a course so that you're not driving all over the place. It's more of a pattern for you. And maybe do it on the day when you're already showing properties, okay? And when you're done showing properties, whatever bank you're closest to, go visit that bank first, okay? Also remember, we mentioned this earlier, we only want to have you work initially with community banks who are portfolio lenders. Remember, the word community means something. That in order for a bank to call themselves a community bank, they have to follow certain guidelines. It's a legal term in the world of banking. One of those is, by the way, that they have to actually invest in that community, okay? And each branch manager is responsible for their loan portfolio in their community, right? In any case, so you dress appropriately, dress code. Again, business casual for the men, slacks and good trousers for women, whatever makes you more comfortable and confident, okay? You want to speak directly to the person in charge of that branch, okay? Now I got some chats coming in. Let me do the script first here. So Rachel, you want to go visit the bank in person. You don't want to talk to anybody else except the person in charge. You're going to see the teller line on one side and around the perimeter, you got all the offices, okay? You're looking for the person in charge. It'll say, branch manager, vice president, something like that. All right. Assuming that person is there and accessible, here's exactly what you say. And guys, I'm going to send this to Beverly. So you're going to get this. You don't have to write all this down. You're going to get this exact checklist with the exact script. Okay. So first things first. Introduction. Hi, I'm Gary Wilson. Then you're going to tell them you're a realtor. So you're going to say, I'm a realtor in the area, and I have clients who are interested in properties just like yours. Okay. Now, at that point, again, you just raised their guard because you just told them you were a realtor and you got clients. You're going to be like, okay, what's this about? You're going to lower the guard very quickly by saying, I just want to sell one. Lowers the guard. Okay. Then you follow up with the pitch, which is three statements, which is this. So I just want to sell one. So let's do one together. And when you like the results, then perhaps we can do more. Right. And again, so let's do one together. And when you like the results, then perhaps we can do more. Remember, guys, if you're taking notes, you're going to get this exact script in your email tomorrow, okay? Now, on that third statement, what I do is some body language. I convey to the other person that I'm passing control of the conversation to them. And subconsciously, they've got to respond. It's called auto function, okay? Can't help it. Now, half the time, they're going to say no. Just part of our business, got to get used to the no's, okay? Sometimes they'll say yes. And other times they're going to say something like, well, you got to talk to Louie. Louie is the attorney on the board who handles our foreclosures. And I'm okay with that, okay? The thing is now I know who the person is I need to speak to. I'm already speaking with one person who's going to give me a warm introduction, right? So I got a warm introduction to the right person, not a cold lead, but a warm introduction. And I'm also going to gather these 5 things, okay? So I would gather the who, what, where, when, and how of Louie. Who's Louie? Where's Louie? How do I contact Louie? What's Louie's contact information? And when's the best time to contact Louie? You make it more conversational. The point I'm trying to make is you want to gather that information, contact them, and now you got the warm handoff. Hey, Rosemary said blah, 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 or Rosemary, well, maybe an email introduction, whatever the case is. Now you make yourself an appointment. You go meet that person and get yourself a listing, okay? So let's see here, a couple of notes. Banks they're smart. They're in the business of making money by lending money. That's what they do, okay? If you're pretty new, they're gonna know it. Don't try to hide it. Just tell them, you're working with the largest brokerage company in the world, and you're being professionally trained to work with investors, being a certified investor agent, okay? And don't be surprised if they give you a crappy property right off the bat. Just take it, get the thing sold, and later on they give you a better property, okay? And by the way, you can use this to get your own properties. So back to that script right up here. When I said, hi, I'm Gary Wilson. I'm a realtor in the area and I have clients. I would say, hi, I'm Gary Wilson. I'm interested in properties just like yours, okay? That's how you change that script to get your own properties. Now, from my own personal experience, when I go to approach banks for my own self, when I go in with cash, offering them a cash offer, I got way better responses than when I went in and said, yeah, I got 20%, but I'll get a loan. Or by the way, hey, would you give me the loan too? Well, guys, they just took the property back with a loan that went south already. They might not want to make a loan on this property again. So cash is always, in business, is always going to give you better deals. Okay, let me check the chat box because we're getting close on time here. And we got several more chats to answer. Let's see. Lewin, is there a ratio of banks looking for? Can we answer that one? Rachel saying, oh, yep, the script, I remember it from the class. That is a script from class, Rachel, that's right. Shika, okay, who do we meet when we visit the bank, the branch manager? It typically, Shika, so good question. A couple of scenarios. Again, I want you to start off with the small local banks who are portfolio lenders. Now, in a lot of cases, this could be a one branch bank. In that case, you just go to that one branch, obviously. But they might have 5 branches, maybe 10. The more branches they have, typically one of those branches will also serve as the headquarters for that bank. And in that headquarters, they'll have central operations for, deposits and, of course, all the REOs and things like that. Could be part of those centralized functions. But we don't really know that per se. I know it because I used to be a banker. But Shika, you still want to visit the individual branches. because then they'll say, you know what, I know what you're talking about, Shika. However, we don't, once the property goes in a troubled asset ratio or troubled asset category, we don't handle it here. That goes up to the office over on Main Street, because that's where they handle all the foreclosures for the 10 branches or the 5 branches. But at this point, you can get a name Shika, and then you can get the right name of the right person at this other office to go give them that script. Okay. Now, so the point is, this is you stick with the small local banks, okay? And you're looking mainly for the person in charge. Sometimes they'll say right under a branch manager, sometimes it'll say vice president. If you're in a really small bank, the bank president's also there, and above his or her door is going to say president. Now, I'm not saying you're going to get in to see that person, although you can try, and I've done it before. But generally, they'll have vice president. Vice president's usually the level of the branch manager, and that's usually who you want to work with. Branch manager / vice president. Okay, let's see here. This is Rachel. Okay, this is good stuff. I already have 2 investors that have agreed to work with me, but I didn't have any properties to show them. Okay, so you would need to have a listing presentation ready prepared. Oh, Rachel, great. Thank you for saying that. Guys, when I was actively doing this, I would keep with me in my briefcase at all times a full set of paperwork for buyers and for sellers, okay? So, because every now and then you'll get lucky, you'll get into the bank. So Shika, this could happen. You'll go in and say, you know, we actually do. We tried to sell this property. The bank president's neighbor's nephew had his license, and he said he could sell it. Didn't work out. You think you can sell this? You'll get right on the spot sometimes deals right there. I'll give you another example. What happened one time? You know, I told the branch managers, I said, look, I've got clients interested in properties just like yours. And he said, come on in, young man, sit down and talk to me. We're talking. He says, well, by the way, who are these people? Who was just, I think he was trying to catch me. Like, who specifically are referring to? Well, thank goodness I had in my briefcase a printout of my clients. I always did this, by the way, highlighted in yellow the ones who were actively engaged in buying something. So I literally pulled out and say, well, here's what I'm talking about. This guy, this guy, this guy, this guy. You know, I got the listing right there on the spot just because I had that. I'm not saying you should do that, but that's one example of you just never know what's going to happen, when it's going to happen, and always be prepared. Always be prepared. In my case, it happened to be having all my documents with me and my printout of my clients. That was being prepared for me. And by the way, you may want to get in the habit of doing that. I know it sounds old school because now we got command and all kinds of neat stuff. Everything is electronic. It's on your phone, whatever. You can turn your phone on and show the guy, but quite frankly, you have in a briefcase, so you pull this thing, it's like cathartic. It's like it's right in front of them. They can't, it's real, you know? So you might want to consider printing off your database once a month and highlighting in yellow the people you're actively engaged with working, okay? Okay. Hey, Louis, so do me a favor, Louis, what the osfi-bsif.gc.ca, would you mind, Louis, I'm gonna unmute you. Hang on one second, Louis. Let's see, attendee list. Where is Louis? Here he is, so allow to talk. Okay, so Louis, if you unmute yourself, I just want everybody to describe what that website is. You just put in the chat box there. Can you hear me, Louis? Hey, Louis, check your microphone. It says you're, I'm at 100% volume. Let me go back to Louis here. Hang on 1 second. I may have actually lost Louis because I'm not seeing him on the attendee list anymore. Let's check panelists. Now I'm the only panelist. Right, it looks like Louis may have, it's funny, I see your box, Louis, but no picture, no video, no audio, no nothing. But if you want to type it in, Louis, what that link is, that would help everybody. So Marina Holmes, right. How do we know which bank is a portfolio lender? So Marina, banks have to disclose that. They have to disclose if they sell mortgages. So if it has public information. So if it's not readily available, like on their website or in their printed material, just call them. Just say, can you please tell me if you're a portfolio lender? In other words, do you keep your mortgages or do you sell them? They have to disclose that. In other words, Marina, when you get a loan from a portfolio lender or when you get a loan from any bank that's selling mortgages, they have to, and one of their documents is called a disclosure They have to disclose to you how many of their loans that they sell on a percentage basis. Let's see how, this is from Jim. Do banks pay 6% commission? They're all different, Jim. The bigger banks are going to try to talk you down to maybe only take 5%. That was the norm back in the day. But when I worked with a small local bank, so I often got my 6% because I would say, well, look, I've got to split this with the other agent. Whoever brings in the buyer, if I get the listing, I can get the buyer myself, but sometimes it's another agent. We got to split that, and people are going to work for much less than 3%. So I would always be able to get the smaller banks to see it my way. The big banks, though, man, it was like their way or the highway. Honestly, 5% was the best I could get for big banks. Oh, Louis, okay. Louis said, I need to connect with Bluetooth. You can search by bank to get all the financial statements by month or quarter. Oh, thank you, Louis, for saying that. So guys, the link that Louis put out there, the OSFI link, you can search by bank to get the financial statements by month or quarter, okay, on a bank by bank basis. So, all right, guys, I think that's pretty much just about it. I appreciate your participation tonight. This was a pretty active weekly webinar, and I like that too, because I want you guys to be engaged, man. Just keep swinging the bat. You're going to have times you're going to be tired. You're going to be just not want to do anything. Just do this before you ever quit for the day. Do one more thing. Take a 5-minute task that you can do, something you can do in 5 minutes. And this is one of my rules I live by the way. And if you add up 5 minutes times, say, 250 days, that's 50 weeks, 5 days a week. 250 times 5 is 1,250 minutes. Let's do the math on that. All right. Let's show you how powerful this is. So let's go to calculator. Where's my calculator? Hang on one second. Calculator, so 1,250 divided by 60 minutes per hour. That's 20 hours, 20.83 hours. That's almost a complete day. 3 days of work. Call that 3 days of work. How much more can you accomplish in 3 days of work just by doing an extra 5 minutes 250 times a year? In 3 days, you could do all kinds of stuff like that, okay? So in any case, that's my preaching moment for today. You guys have a wonderful night. Next week, we will be meeting on the 25th. Let's see, next week's subject, by the way, I'll give you a heads up here. We're going to go over marketing when it comes to print media and Craigslist and Kijiji, okay? How to use good old-fashioned print, not big newspapers, just local publications. Craigslist, which is online in both the U.S. and Canada, and Kijiji is in Canada. So stay tuned for that one. Jump on board. We'll look for seeing you then. In the meantime, you guys have an awesome rest of the week, a great weekend. Enjoy your time with your families. God bless you and your families, and I'll see you next week. Okay, bye, guys. And